Welcome back to Hardcore Race Products Technical Tips videos. Today we're going to show you how to check and adjust the valve clearances on your 250 or 450cc motocross engine. So today we've taken the engine out just to make it easier for the purpose of videoing. It's not necessary. In this case of the Husqvarna 250 engine, what is important is that you remove the hanger at the back here and the hose that comes out of here so that you can cleanly then remove this. Taking the spark plug out will also make life easier. A few tools are required. You do need a 14mm spanner. Actually, in the case when you've got the engine in the frame, there's a plug on the other side here. I've stripped this out because I'm starting to work on this engine. But there's normally a cover on here, little plug you can remove. Then you need a little 14mm socket into here so that you can then turn the engine over. You need this Allen key because you've got a locking tool. You've got a locking pin on the other side there so that you can lock the crankshaft at top dead centre. You need some feeler gauges to check your clearance, and 10mm, and also what is very, very important in this case is a little torque wrench. So here we go. First thing we're going to do is take the top off. Removing the spark plug will make life a lot easier for you because you do have to turn the engine over to align the camshaft when the piston's at top dead centre. So off with the cover. All looks a little bit spooky for some people, but it is very, very basic. You've got your cam chain here, which is driven from the bottom, your two camshafts. In the case of the Honda and some of the other bikes, they're a single overhead cam. Okay, we'll just remove this, which is a tunnel at the spark plug. You can see I've already taken the spark plug out. Okay, right. Normally on a KTM 250, this isn't running standard camshafts. If you were running standard camshafts on the later models, you'll find two dots on the back here on two flats, which then align with two flats there. So if you can see both the dots, your piston's at top dead centre, then you know your cam timing's correct. In this case, and in the case of an earlier KTM, plus a lot of the Japanese bikes, you'll find the marks are actually on the gears. Now if we get the 14mm spanner in this case, but if you're on a bike that was on an engine that was still in the bike, you would, okay, so here we go. KTM very nicely on these particular camshafts have coloured one of the marks, but not the other. So as you can see here, we've got the two timing marks which tally here and here. In the case of the KTM and the Husqvarna engine, you can then tilt it over slightly. Okay, remove this plug, cover your bench in oil. In my case here, because I've got the engine out, wouldn't be the case if it was still in the frame. Okay, we're going to take a little copper washer off because that will allow it to go deeper in, and therefore just key into a slot that's in the crankshaft. If this doesn't go flush down to the case, then you know your keyway position is not correct. Okay, so I'm going to just turn it now. Back off. And there we go. So we've now got it in place. We know the piston is now at top dead centre and is locked there. So whatever else you do, your piston's not going to go up and down. And as long as you have your camshafts then set with these two marks meeting each other, or two pinpoints against the flats here on the others, or several of the other Japanese bikes they run with the markings the same, or markings on the outside, but that will be in your manual. So the next thing to do is to release the cam chain. This particular bike has a manual cam chain adjuster, so we're going to knock that off. We quite like it. We find a little bit more power with it, and we can control the adjustability and the tension on the cam chain. So that's released the cam chain now. Next thing to do is to check those valve clearances as we are now. So in the case of the intake, in this one we're going to go for 0.10 on the intake cam. So between the camshaft and the rocker you have here, we're going to slide this in here. Okay, and make sure that we can just about slide through. That's one of our engines. This is correct. I'm just going to show you how to then strip it out and put it back together. But as we'd expect, these clearances are correct and as they should be. And again, yeah, that one's just a little bit tight. Okay, nope, there we go, perfect. So you want to have just a tight tolerance fit going through there. Needs to just be a little bit of stiction between the cam and the rocker, and that's absolutely fine. On the exhaust cam, because there's more heat on the exhaust cam, on the exhaust valves, expansion a little bit more, so you need a little bit more clearance. So in this case, we're going to go for 13. There we go. Again, nice tight little fit there. Perfect. Yep, just what you're looking for. If they were more, normally what happens is, as things wear, the valve pulls up through the cylinder head, so it wears into it. So you find those tolerances will be smaller, not bigger. With older engines, they used to get rattly, and then you'd need to sort out your valve clearances. In this case, what you tend to find is they tighten up, and you'll have a loss in compression, or more likely the inlet valves will tighten up and then the bike will be reluctant to start. If you continue to run it like that, then you will end up with valve problems. You'll end up with cuts in valves and so forth. So it's good to keep an eye on it from a performance perspective, as well as a reliability point of view. Okay, so now we've evaluated it. Okay, in this case, I'm going to show you how to take them out and check them and so forth and change them. But in this case, because our engine is good, we don't actually need to change them. But for the purpose of the video, I'm now going to do that for you. We've taken out our cam chain tensioner, so the chain's nice and loose now. What we're going to do now is release the top bolts off here so we can take the cam carrier cap off. Now, not an awful lot of torque on these, but still, best practice to do it in a crosshatch formation. Okay, 15 Newton meters, that's all these have on here, so nothing excessive. Nice and steady. You know, don't go mad at it. If you over tighten it, then you're tightening up the bearing surface between the camshaft and the cap. Distort it, will cause it a problem, and yeah, you'll wreck some camshafts and DNF a race. Cost yourself a load of money and not finish a race. Not a great combination, really. So once we've got all these off, so they're all out of the way now. So this cam cap here comes off, no problem at all. Now that releases your camshafts. This is a finished surface. Don't just slam it down your desk. This is not a finished surface. So if you're going to do anything, put it that way up. Okay, and just don't dump stuff on it, really not necessary. You're going to lift one of the camshafts up, remove this from here, hit one camshaft, pull the other one out. Okay, your little plastic feeder cup here, and there's your intake cam. I always just get a spring puller, drop that over there, holds the camshafts nice and taut, and out of the way. Right, now as you can see here, we have the valves, and here are the followers that follow your camshaft. And as the cam lobe comes round, pushes on here, which then pushes the valve down, opens the valve, in this case, allowing the gases to come in. Again, when the other camshaft comes round, it pushes on these and releases them. They get hot, change in length, you need a clearance. So we've done the clearance test on there. We know that we're actually correct, but just so that you know, these are the shims, best extracted with a magnet, and then with a vernier gauge that you set to 0. First thing to establish is what size they are. If you're going to buy the original ones from a KTM dealer, in this case, or a Husqvarna dealer, then they will know what size. There are various different kits around. In this case here, we've got several of the kits here for all the different engines and so forth, made by Hot Cam. So you can buy a complete kit. In this, as you saw there from the measurement, we're looking at a shim size of 8.9 millimeters. So that's the cam shims that we need. Kit comes here. Now if we'd have had, so in this case we've got a 2.16 is the sizing that we had here, that we've just taken out of here. If the valve clearancing was too tight and we needed to open it up by 0.05 of a mil, then we would have gone to a 2.12 in this case to give us the extra clearance. So the thinner the shim, the bigger the clearance. Obviously you need to go in the other direction. If your valve clearances are too big, then you need to have a bigger shim to take up the gap. So we're just going to pop this back in here, same procedure, but we change it or not. So we've taken it out, we've then turned around and we've gone from these, by the way, these shims, either way up doesn't really matter. They're not one-sided at all, so that doesn't matter. So as long as you've got the right size, which in the case of the KTM or Husqvarna on this 250cc engine is the 8.9, you can either check it and then go to your Husqvarna or KTM dealer or your Honda dealer or whatever your brand of bike is, and then you can order the appropriate size shim, or because we're changing them all the time here, you've got you can buy a kit from Hot Cams, and I'm sure other people do them as well. So anyway, once we've been through them all, you know, check them all, make sure we've got the right shims in there, then you just need to reassemble and then recheck your clearances as a final double check. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to put our camshafts back in again now. So we've made the adjustments we needed to do with our shims. As you can see, I've shown you how to take a shim out, measure the thickness of it. You then go to your shim kit or go to your dealer and get an appropriate thinner or thicker shim to either reduce or increase your clearance. Right, okay, so now we're just going to pop the camshafts back in. Best to look for the mark. This is actually the exhaust cam, which in this case we'll put in the second time. In the first case, here we go. So this is our intake cam. Just check first to give you an idea of where the timing mark is. Nicely painted on the other one, but not painted on this one. So there's the mark we're looking for right there. So there. Slide this through here. Always take care with the bearing faces. So what the camshaft sits in, you don't need to give that a hard time. Okay, so just got to feed this back and always pull your cam chain that way. And there we go, that should be fine. And what we'll do is get the exhaust cam. Feed this in here. Feed it back, because again we're at top dead centre and we want these timing marks to tally. Maybe one more. Slot in our bearing points. Okay, and then if you push in like this, you'll see whereas that one there is correct, this one isn't. So just feed the cam back out of its bearing point, turn it a couple of teeth. Again, push your finger up in here, tension the chain. Oh, one too many. That should be it there now. Right, there we go. Yep. So our two timing marks on the camshafts are now facing each other. Make sure this is sat in here nicely. Okay, so at this point you can then put on your carrier again. The face, don't bash it about. Keep everything nice and clean and tidy. Make sure it's nicely in place. Everything's all sat properly. The torque settings on there are 15 Newton meters. Do is to make sure that the faces here are nicely coated in oil, which they will tend to be, just through handling them and so forth and being oily in the first place. But make sure that the torque you're putting is in torquing the actual threads rather than pressure against the seat of the head. Okay, let's just whiz these all down somewhere near. I'm not going to put any tension on there at the moment, so there's not really a need to get too fussy about doing a cross section. When we do tighten them down properly, then it's very important that you go across and tighten them down nice and evenly, and certainly not under or over torquing them. So 15 Newton meters is what we're looking for. Run this through here now. 15 Newton meters. If you're talking about a higher torque level, I would say take 2 bites at it. Because we're only going for 1 hit, because it's quite a low torque level, this is absolutely fine. There a little bit fearful this job. I don't see really there's too much need to be. All you've got to do is be clean, tidy and careful, and just have a bit of respect for stuff, and there's no reason why it shouldn't go fine. There we go. We'll just start the check. Right, so all that's basically left to do now is just to check to make sure that your changes, and in this case we went for 0.10 on the intake. So back again between the camshaft and its follower, there's 1, there's 2, and then we're going to go with 0.13 on the exhaust cams. So feed those between the rocker and the camshaft, just that little bit of stiction, perfect, and again perfect there. On with the cover. In this case we're running a manual camtain tensioner. In with the tensioner. So we're going to screw that back in, making sure that O-ring, which I did, is pressed nicely up against the ridge. Tighten that up. Okay, this just happens to be conveniently a 2.5mm screwdriver. That's the thickness of the bore here. Put it down, push in. You just want to be able to sit it level. It'd be just, again, you know, don't make it so you're having to stretch the living daylights out of it. But that, I'd probably just take that up a fraction. Okay, and that will be your correct adjustment here. If you were to want to adjust it, you just release this nut here, turn the adjuster in slightly, lock it, and you just want a little bit of stiction on that. It's not far out, but it could just, you know, maybe half a turn, and that would be it with that. On with your cover. Easy enough done. Make sure again all the surfaces are clean. These rubber gaskets normally last 2 or 3 times, so there's no real stress with that. Put your little spark plug tunnel in. Like that. On with your cover. Up with your 3 screws, which have basically got 10 Newton meters on required on them. And the main thing to do now, before you go clicking over the starter motor, is to make sure that you then remove that Allen key bolt from underneath and put your copper washer back on. So you need to remove the Allen key, put this copper washer, put that back on, and that will release your crankshaft. And that's it, that's how you do your valve clearances.